Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
All right, thanks a lot, guys, and thank you for tuning into the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. I'm Rich Walsh. You can give us a call tonight at 412-575-2600. Chris Mueller is joining me from the 93.7 The Fan Cam, and we're taking your phone calls tonight, like I said, at 412-575-2600. Chris, thanks for stopping by. A lot of news here today. Maybe the biggest news of the day is Bubba Chandler's coming up, potentially going to make his Major League debut this weekend at PNC Park. But I find it interesting that he's going to get the bulk of his work out of the bullpen. I don't know if that's a good decision or a bad decision. They didn't do it with Paul Skeens. They did it with Braxton Ashcraft. I would personally like to have him come up here and start and see what he can do.
Well, I think that it's, if nothing else, a sign that things haven't ultimately gone as planned with Bubba Chandler, because if he was tearing up AAA and forcing his way onto the big club by breaking down the door and just proving that, hitters in, in the International League were just no match for him, then you'd make him a starter right away, and he'd probably have been up earlier. But the fact of the matter is he's struggling. Now, there's some history for the Pirates bringing along young pitchers as longer relievers and not having them start games right away. Denny Nagel, John Smiley, you could even go back to Francisco Cordova, some guys who had legitimate success with that approach. But this just feels like the Pirates are trying to figure something out with Bubba Chandler, because something is broken there, or has been for about a month and a half, 2 months. His control has been bad. He has put up shaky outing after shaky outing, and I just think I don't love it. I would rather see the guy starting, just to be perfectly blunt. But if nothing else, it is an indication that things have gone at least somewhat off the rails with somebody that felt like almost as much of a can't miss as Skeens did, with how he was really tearing up the minor leagues until a couple of months ago.
Yeah, I mean, his first 11 starts, he was unhittable. And then in June, he had like an 8 ERA. July, he had a 7 ERA. And it's just nowhere near the Bubba Chandler that we saw at the beginning. I don't know what happened there.
You know what I would love to know? Is it a physical, mechanical thing for him? Or is it a situation where he figured, all right, I've just been awesome for the first month and a half of the minor league season. I'm going to get my call up sometime in June. I'm going to get, a shot in the show. It doesn't happen. He sees other players getting called up routinely. He starts to pitch worse. The whole thing snowballs mentally. You'd almost hope that it's something mental and not something physical or mechanical, because if it's something in the mechanical realm, or if he's tipping pitches or something like that, that feels like a bigger problem. If it's just a case of Bubba Chandler got frustrated and wasn't focused, I can live with that a little bit more. But either way, those numbers that you put out there in June and July are alarming, and you almost wonder if the Pirates are just saying, you know what, we've tried to get them fixed in the minors, we might as well bring them up to the majors. Maybe that's going to kickstart something. Although I will say, with a note of caution here, anytime you've got a struggling pitcher in the minor leagues, usually the last thing that you want to do is bring them up against better hitters and tell that guy, hey, try to get these major league hitters out. You've been struggling to throw the ball over the plate to minor league hitters, perhaps the best in the world, are actually what you need to peak your performance. Yeah,
I like the fact that he's coming up, though. Hopefully they don't waste his rookie season. I think you have to keep it under 50 innings. I'm sure they'll do that. But I want to see what kind of stuff he has up here. And hopefully he doesn't get discouraged if things don't go well and it's a setback. One thing, though, before we get to the Steelers, one thing, it's died down a little bit. Ben Cherington, it feels like the longer we go, the better chance he's coming back next year.
Yeah, I don't really know why, though. It's not like the team has played in such a way that he deserves to. They happen to be a pretty decent home team, the 8th best home record in the NL, so just about mid-pack. And all but one of the teams ahead of them are in a playoff spot right now, so defending your home turf's usually pretty good. They're just such an atrocity on the road that they are second worst record in the entire National League, obviously, next to the Rockies. I don't think he's done anything. I don't think there's anything that's happened with any of these players that would justify Ben Cherington being viewed differently than he was a month or 2 months ago. Tommy Pham is starting to hit slightly. Wonderful. You've got Andrew McCutchen calling out the front office and ownership. That's on the heels of Paul Skeens pretty obviously pointing the finger at front office and at ownership. At some point, you have to look at your general manager if you're Bob Nutting and say, am I really, truly going to let this guy try to clean up his own mess another time? To me, that's an easy answer, Rich. And the fact that I'm not going to be like sky is falling guy and say the fact that he's still on the job now means that he's going to keep the job through the offseason. I'm going to trust that Bob Nutting is going to take a sober look at this in the offseason and realize he can't go on with Ben Cherington, but I'll admit the possibility that he looks at it and says, yep, let's bring this back for 2026 has occurred to me, and it keeps me up at night.
Yeah, let's run it back and don't sign anyone in the offseason, then see what happens. All right, we'll switch gears to the Steelers a little bit. In our Penn West University live poll question, just scan that QR code in the right-hand corner of the screen. Would you have liked to have seen Aaron Rodgers play in the preseason? I know we talked about this many times. It's what, rust versus rest. I think they're going to be pretty rusty. I like to see guys play 1 or 2 series. I understand that, you know, we saw Kenny Pickett light it up a couple years ago. You know, maybe Aaron Rodgers doesn't need to play, but I think you need to get that unit out there just for 1 series at least, just to see another team.
Zach Frazier's had snapping problems. I'd like to see him working with Rodgers, even for like 6 to 10 total plays. I would just like to see the basic stuff of getting in and out of the huddle. Everyone's on the same page with cadences. Rodgers was talking for an extended period today about hard counts. I'd like to see the team reacting to those in the game. He said they've handled them well at practices, but still game situations different. I think the bigger story here, Rich, is the fact that he's not going to play, and I think he should have, like I said, is that Aaron Rodgers is calling a lot of the shots because he can say all he wants that he's open to playing in the preseason. We know that if that were actually true or that if he really meant that, Mike Tomlin would play him because this is going to be the first year. Jerry Dulac had this stat since at least before Roethlisberger was drafted, so going back over 20 years, that their presumptive starter has not taken a single snap of preseason action. So I think if Mike Tomlin had his druthers, Rodgers would play. Just tells me that he's letting the quarterback lead this show, which then, Richie, I think begets a bigger discussion and question. Is Mike Tomlin going to keep his hands off the steering wheel when the offense is on the field? Did you happen to see the highlight of Russell Wilson throwing like a 60-yard bomb down the middle for a long gainer right down to the 1-yard line? He never threw to the middle of the field with Tomlin last year. They were petrified of it. Is he finally going to let a 4-time MVP, a future upper room Hall of Famer, call the shots? If that's the outcome, I actually think it could be a good one for the Steelers.
Yeah, and we got to take a break. Back in a couple minutes with your phone calls. All right, welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. This is our Xfinity Tweet of the Night. Bubba Chandler gets the call. Chandler is ranked amongst the top prospects in baseball for well over a year thanks to his electric fastball, vastly improved changeup. He will pitch out of the bullpen to start, but he has a talent to be a frontline force for Pittsburgh. He can hit 100. And, you know, this leads me to, Ryan just tweeted us here. Why would the Pirates not start Bubba Chandler this weekend against the worst team in baseball? That's a good point there. I mean, this is an opportunity against the worst team.
I know that they feel like their bullpen coach and coordinator or whatever has like sort of pitching whisperer vibes, and maybe they want to get him around that particular gentleman more often. We had a caller suggest that, but I do think that it's curious that they're not starting him. I guess I have to give the Pirates this much. If people wanted to see Bubba Chandler and there was going to be a palpable buzz, they would start him for business reasons. It's going to sell more tickets. Now, if he's going to work some bulk innings in long relief, you don't know for sure if you're a fan if you're going to see him because he's not going to be on the day's probables as the starting pitcher. So you could say that the Pirates aren't being cynical about this and just starting him when they otherwise wouldn't because they want to get a bump in ticket sales. I think they're making the wrong move. I think they should try to start him. I don't think the way to snap a guy out of the doldrums is to both bring him up a level against better competition and then also have him doing something that he's never done as a professional, which is come out of the bullpen and plan on pitching 2 or 3 innings. It's going to be a foreign experience for him. And unless they think he needs a snap out of the rut to snap out of the rut he's been in, like he needs a change from the norm, I actually think this could backfire in the short term with them.
Hey, it's the Pirates. You never know what can happen with those guys. All right, Chuck, Uniontown. How you doing, Chuck?
Thanks, fellas. Good evening. Once again, I'll say this. Fellas, if Nutting brings Ben Sherrington back after this year, Nutting ought to be given life imprisonment. How in the world do you keep a guy around with 6 last-place finishes? Is there any justification for this?
Chuck, the justification is they still owe money. I think that would be like the only sticking point here, right? I mean,
yeah, but Bob has paid money to make GMs and managers and team presidents go away in the past.
But this is why I think he won't do it again, because he had to do it. He had to shell out all that money before.
I believe this is the last year of Ben Sherrington's deal, if memory serves. Maybe he's got one more left. I forget. I think they tried to cloak that one. I think he had to pay Shelton basically just for the rest of this year not to work. I will say that Bob Nutting, I think, would pay Ben Sherrington to go away. I hope he would. I'd like to see them clean house in that entire front office. Somebody needs to explain to me, maybe sell me on it, what exactly Travis Williams has done to warrant keeping his job, because he's supposed to be the guy handling the business side. They've had multiple fiascos there. And if he is technically sort of second in command to Bob Nutting, one would assume reasonably that he's at least had some discussions about whether or not they should have kept Sherrington, whether or not they should have kept Shelton, et cetera, et cetera. And Travis Williams has done nothing to convince me that he deserves to keep his job. To whatever extent you think that the president of the team, the guy who's doing the business stuff, should have any say-so in baseball ops, we know Frank Coonelly did towards the end of his tenure. I don't think Travis Williams has even come close to living up to whatever Frank Coonelly did as Pirates president when he was here.
They could bring in the best marketing guy in the entire universe, and I don't know if it can help this team as long as they keep trotting out a loser.
Sure, but you can actively not harm the team with the guy who does inhabit, the Travis Williams role. And I mean, honestly, they have taken multiple body blows from a PR perspective because of things that have happened under his purview. So he wouldn't be safe either. I would be conducting a purge of my front office this offseason if I were Bob Nutting. We'll just see if Bob has the sort of constitution and fortitude to actually make these decisions.
The whole brick fiasco might be the worst move that this organization has done in the last few years, maybe the last decade off the field. All right, back out to the question. Would you have liked to see Aaron Rodgers play in the preseason? Most people agree with us, 78%. So scan that QR code. We'll see what happens at the end of the show. Let's go out to Stephen in Crafton. How you doing, Stephen?
I'm doing good, guys.
Thanks for calling.
I want to talk a little bit about the Pirates. Sportsnet was broadcasting the Curve game, and I saw Connor Griffin at bat. He was 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. But the question I have is, we keep talking about getting a bat, that they got to go out and get a bat. I don't hear anybody talking about Nick Solich at Indianapolis, who I think is leading the International League with a 345 average. What do you think about him?
Well, they definitely need more than one bat, Chris, not just one. I want a major league bat in here, and you're going to have to overpay for one. That's the problem the Pirates in right now, and they didn't really get any bats in any of those trades they made either.
I'm ruminating here. Nick Solich is leading the International League at 345. I would love to know his age. That's not a name, unless it's the wrong name that was given here, that I can think of on the Pirates prospect list. Not that I'm exactly paying ultra close attention to guys who aren't Connor Griffin right now among position players. But I'm going to guess if it's a guy who's leading the International League in hitting, that he's either aged out and is probably one of those career minor league types, or just happens to be having a crazy good year. In any event, why am I even saying all that? The guy's hitting 345. The Pirates should bring him up. My God, they don't have a single average offensive player on their entire major league roster. Not one guy for the year, for the balance of the season, even qualifies as an average offensive major league player. That is it's disgraceful, as a matter of fact, when you consider Ben Sherrington having put this team together. It should be a fireable offense like this minute, and the fact that it's not is kind of a bummer.
Well, he's 30 years old. He can play second base and the outfield, so I don't care.
So there it is. I was right, though. Career minor league type. I mean, guy he's basically Crash Davis, except he plays a different position.
All right, back out to the phone lines. We got John out in Castle Shannon. How you doing, John?
Hey, guys, how are you tonight?
Good, thanks for calling.
Hey, Rich, you're looking so good, buddy. We have to have a bobblehead doll for you, buddy.
Maybe in 20 years I'll be able to have a bobblehead like Pump, right?
What percentage of the bobblehead do you think would be devoted to Rich's hair, by the way?
It would probably be the most, the biggest part of it.
What, he's right up around my man, Bob. Hey, guys, anyways, I think Tomlin's making a bad decision. They ought to start all those Steelers. What do you think, my main man?
Look, I don't know about all of them. Maybe the injured guys you keep out. I think you can keep some
Watt
guys
doesn't
out.
have to play. Hayward doesn't have to play.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Rodgers play 1 to 2 series. That's it. It's a modest ask, I think.
And Metcalf. I know he's trying to. He doesn't want to risk injury. That's probably the biggest thing. And maybe with Rodgers doesn't want to play.
He also wants to cater to his veterans, Rich. I think he wants to keep the peace with Aaron Rodgers. I think he wants it to be. Aaron Rodgers has spun the whole. This is all good vibes all the time for me in my final year in likely my final year in the NFL. I think Mike Tomlin wants to make it fun and good vibes right now and doesn't want to have to start kind of cracking the whip until he absolutely has to in the regular season.
All right, we're going to take a break. Back to wrap things up. Coming up next. Stay right there.